Hey guys and girls, welcome to Forgetting Walls, the podcast. This is episode 49. That's right, one before 50. Man, almost 50 episodes. Can you believe it? And anyways, this week, it's a Thanksgiving special. I know we're kind of in the middle of a series about depression, but we decided to take a week off because David's not with us. So this week, we talk about immigration. Why not? It's Thanksgiving. It's all about immigration, right? Talk a little bit about Syrian refugees. In the beginning, we just really speak a lot of nonsense. You're going to find a lot of foul-ups, but decided to leave what we could in there this week because we wanted to show you that it's real, it's not fake, and it's definitely not scripted. So joining us as we talk about it, let us know what you think because we have different opinions on it. We say a lot of things that, may not sound right to you, but it's up to you to check us out. It's up to you to give us the feedback and your information on what you think may be the right answer. I hope you enjoy it. Keith gives us a little Darth Vader crusading, or robbing, in the end. And we just have a good time laughing. We thank y'all for listening. We appreciate y'all. For Thanksgiving this year, that's what we're thankful for. And hopefully, you're still thankful for the most important part of this episode. Or any episode. Hey everybody, welcome to Forgetting Walls, the podcast. It's episode 49, and happy Thanksgiving.
By the time you're listening to this, it'll probably actually be Thanksgiving.
Yeah, because it will get produced on Thursday. Well, sort of produced on Thursday.
Right.
It'll be ready to go Thursday, and Thursday this week is Thanksgiving.
Turkey Day.
That's right.
That's right. It's the day that we celebrate for football, big bellies,
stretchy pants.
Stretchy pants. I got my I'm actually got my stretchy pants on right now, getting them prepared for Thursday.
They look like jeans. They actually stretch. So
they're called jeggings, Keith.
They're not jeggings.
Well, let's not go there. Let's not do that tonight. Anyways.
So, do you want to actually introduce everyone this time around, Keith?
I think I may. I was going to say, Justin, how are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Good, Justin.
I'm kind of lonely here.
No David.
Sadly, David is not with us tonight.
Did he die?
No, fortunately, he's not dead yet. But I was trying to think of something wittier to say, but it didn't work out. Yeah. But no, he's actually back home already. But he'll be back next week and be joining us as we continue our series.
Okay.
When does your break end?
My break ends. I mean, I come back on. I come back to Boone next Monday. So, yeah.
Well, at least you get a little break.
Yeah, my break starts Thursday and ends Thursday. So.
Wow, really? My break starts Thursday and ends Sunday.
Oh, well, that's good, though.
Yeah.
I mean, I could have taken more time, but we don't get any more time. Like, I could have taken Friday if I had that time, if I had that much PTO back at the beginning of the year.
Right. Well, I would have probably shot somebody if I didn't have Friday off. I need another day off.
You need a lot of days off.
Speaking of that, on this end, since David's not on that end with Justin, and Justin's by himself, on my end, I'm not lonely. I do have Chris to my left.
Hi.
And Keith to my right.
Hello.
Which is usually how it always is.
Yes.
Keith's always to my right.
Oh, yeah, I'm always to your right. Chris isn't always to your left, though.
No.
Well, I mean, technically, if we go in a circle, I could be on his left. Because I was usually on the opposite side of you. So.
Well, but that depends on his orientation. Because he was usually like
But if you always go, if you connect us in a circle, I'm always on his left because I'm on your left.
Yeah,
right?
but you're still technically on his right usually.
You're in the way, though.
So welcome to Podcast World,
where we argue about shapes.
I'm glad you're speaking to my orientation, Keith.
Yes. I feel qualified to speak about that. So.
Okay.
He is the master of orientation.
Like we said, happy Thanksgiving, people. This is our Thanksgiving episode of the podcast. Yeah. I know last week we started a series about depression, and we're going to wait 1 week before we get back into it because we want David to be back a part of that show. He has. We are in the middle of editing and getting ready to produce a new blog post that is authored by David, and you will see that coming either this week or the beginning of next week once we're finished up with it. Hopefully this week, so it can be ready before the next show is actually recorded, so we can get some feedback from listeners and other people who will read that blog post. And I'm pretty stoked about getting it up, Justin. I mean, it's it is probably one of the outside of the stuff I've read that you have already written. I really thoroughly enjoyed reading it. I don't want to say the artistry of it, but the authorship of it is well written. Yeah. And it's very personal and open and honest, and that really grips me as well.
Yeah, it's really reflective, and it shows a lot of things that he's been through and how he's dealt with it. So, and it's one thing that we like to emphasize here on the podcast, being open and honest about, who we are and what we go through. So
yeah, and that is about as honest and open as you can get with what he shares in that blog post. And you will probably hear a lot more about that in the coming couple of weeks as we talk through this series about depression and talk about suicide and self-harm and other things that deal with mental illnesses. But besides that, this week we're just going to have a good old Thanksgiving episode, and we're going to wing it.
It's the best idea we've ever had.
So it's funny because turkeys have wings,
but they don't really fly.
Well,
hopefully this episode will launch them.
They don't fly very high, but they do fly because they sleep in trees.
They do.
Wait, what?
Yes, you didn't know this?
Oh, wow.
How have I never known this?
Chris will learn something this evening. Yes, turkeys don't fly like far distances, but they can fly.
Mm-hmm. Are they like lions where they can leap 36 feet forward but not 36 feet up, so they can just kind of go really glide forward but not go?
They've got like chicken legs, turkey legs, but still.
I'm not saying they leap, but the equivalent of leaping to flying.
No, they actually flap their wings and get to a perch and sleep.
Yeah, but they can't reach maximum altitude.
Oh no, they're too fat.
Exactly. So I'm saying,
but they can't fly. Chickens can't fly. Chickens are unable to fly. I mean, they can't even get off the ground.
Have you not seen Chicken Run?
Have you?
No, chickens can get off the ground.
That's the whole premise of the movie.
They can't fly. They can't do as much as turkeys can, but they can get on top of the coop and stuff.
You guys must not have played Legend of Zelda because those chickens can float and they can fly. And that's where I take all my knowledge from.
That's a great source of knowledge.
That was not great sarcasm.
Ouch.
Well, in saying that, Thanksgiving is always been almost my favorite holiday.
Mm-hmm. I like Thanksgiving.
Mainly because of the food.
Food and football. Good. I mean, what's not to love?
That's the second part, football.
You don't even like football, Justin.
No, I'm talking about from Keith's perspective. Since it's his second favorite holiday.
He knows me. That's right, because football plays a part of it. It's getting to the kickoff, where we're getting good college basketball games are starting to pick up. The college football season is winding down towards the bowl season, which is good. So games are really getting good. So everything about sports is good around Thanksgiving because there's no baseball too.
Oh, I like baseball.
You would.
All right, I just want to interrupt. I just wanted to look it up real quick. Apparently, turkeys do fly. Yes. I see pictures.
Did you think we were lying?
I can never trust you guys sometimes.
I'm not that sarcastic.
Yeah. But I grew up with you guys. Sometimes I just know that you'll take the most simple things and make me believe it until it gets to an important part of my life and I sound like an idiot.
Actually, I have done that before to people.
So I knew better than to check.
No, turkeys can't fly.
Color me impressed.
Yes. But anyways, so yes, football games this week, and there is a big football game that we think is a big football game because the Panthers are 10-0.
Yep, 10-0 Panthers.
They're our hometown team, basically. Well, sort of, yeah. Now they are, since they're in Carolina. They're Carolina Panthers.
Yes.
So, and they play the the Stank Boys, the Cowgirls, the choke artist Romo.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, he's less of a choke artist than Eli Manning now.
No.
Eli Manning has 2 Super Bowls.
I was about to say.
Eli Manning has 2 Super Bowls. Romo has
none.
A playoff win.
Yeah.
1 playoff win, I think, or 2.
1 or 2.
Yeah,
Not many.
So
I think it's 2, but they were like 3 years apart.
No.
Eli Manning has beat the Patriots.
The 16-0 Patriots.
Yeah, the 16-0 Patriots. They beat them, so they're not typically considered a choke artist.
Yeah.
He just doesn't have. He doesn't string good seasons together. He has a good season and a bad season.
I thought it was more like 1 good, 3 bad.
Maybe.
If it gets you 2 Super Bowls, that's fine.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I mean, who else in the league has 2 Super Bowls? Tom Brady, and that's it?
I think Peyton does, doesn't he?
No. Peyton has 1.
1?
Ben has 1. Or does Ben have 2?
No, Ben has 2.
Ben has 2.
Ben has 2.
Yeah. So yeah, you got a few things lining up. But if the
doesn't Tom have like 4?
Yes.
Yes, he has 4. But if you look at
why does he even play anymore?
because he's making a buttload of money.
I had to say, we get it. Everyone thinks you're the GOAT. You don't got to play anymore.
I don't think he's the GOAT.
No, he really isn't.
I don't think he's the GOAT.
But the way sympathizers are out there,
He's really good, but I don't think he's the GOAT.
I've tried to come in this conversation and understand what you guys are talking about, like, at least 3 or 4 times.
GOAT stands for greatest of all time.
Okay.
Yeah. And he is not.
No, he's not the GOAT.
Like Muhammad Ali is considered the GOAT of boxing.
He's a great player.
Michael Jordan
will be remembered.
Widely
for a long
considered the
time.
GOAT in basketball.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'll give you that one.
Is Tiger Woods the GOAT of golf?
No.
No, I don't know. I really follow golf, but I just know his name.
He was going to be until
Jack Nicklaus.
Jack Nicklaus.
Jack Nicklaus, yes.
Jack Nicklaus and Arnold Palmer.
Arnie Palmer.
But I'm going to give it to Jack.
Jack Nicklaus. Oh, more majors.
Yeah, probably the best.
Yeah, this
ever
one
been.
I don't know anything about. I don't know golf.
Justin, and since people that are listening to the podcast can't see what's going on, Justin is on the other end going, I don't know what to do.
It's like Arnold Palmer.
My hands up in the- I have no idea.
Yeah, that's Arnie Palmer is actually pretty delicious.
They are delicious. It's just like
Just only have one.
just gonna
sweet
sit
tea
over
with
here and
a
eat my
lot of
Cheez-Its.
lemon. That's basically what it tastes like.
Yeah.
Just only drink one though, guys. It's dangerous.
Except, okay, that's sarcasm, right? Because there's no alcohol in it.
I know.
Okay. Just making sure. I can't tell sometimes.
Justin's getting his Cheez-Its while we're and that's the thing, David's not here, so we don't have to bore David, but boring Justin's not a problem.
No, that doesn't bother me one bit.
You're not bothered.
He kind of ends up like a cat when he gets bored. He just starts looking at other things, playing with them, eating food,
Yeah.
playing with his beard, grooming.
Remember
himself.
that one time you guys, I think it was when we had him on the podcast one time. And it was after the podcast had already ended, and we stayed on Skype for over an hour.
Oh my gosh, I remember that.
And I was there, and I just ended up scrolling through like cat and dog pictures and holding up to the camera because we were live streaming that too.
Oh yeah, we were. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, that was crazy.
Is that saved, archived anywhere
Yeah,
on
it's
the
on
internet?
YouTube.
It's on YouTube.
I'm gonna go find that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Actually, I'm probably not gonna go find that. I have better things to watch.
Yeah, YouTube. You can check us out. Forgetting Walls at YouTube, man. Check us out.
Not much up there, but you
No,
can check
not
it
right
out.
now. Well, I will at some point get more up there.
Yeah.
And Keith is Snapchatting.
I'm Snapchatting.
But speaking of Miles, we're taking a break from the whole Thanksgiving thing, but speaking of Miles and Robbie went to YS in Louisville, which is kind of crazy. I never thought they'd take youth specialties to Louisville, Kentucky. I mean, of all places.
It's a nice little town. I've been there.
I used to live there.
Oh, did you
Yeah.
really? I didn't know that.
It was one of the places I lived in.
When you were in the army,
No, there's no place in front of the Army up there.
that's what I thought. I was like, where?
When I was a youngin.
What's
Really? I
the
didn't
base in
know that.
Kentucky? Isn't it only Fort Knox?
Fort Campbell.
Fort Campbell's in Kentucky as well.
Yep. That's where the 101st are.
That's right.
We're just a podcast of information tonight, people.
Absolutely.
We're just giving you information all night. Useless information.
See, when we don't have a subject, we just kind of talk about whatever pops in our brains.
And that's what tonight is. It's a Thanksgiving episode, being thankful for the useless knowledge that we have in our head.
I'm constantly thankful for that.
Yes.
I'm not. It really gets confusing sometimes because I'll think I know what I'm talking about, and then I realize halfway through, I'm like, that's not even related to the turkeys we were talking about. That's bowling balls. What?
It comes in handy when you're playing Genius Edition Trivia Pursuit
Yes,
from
that's right.
1984 against Wesley and Robbie.
It also
I've
comes
done
in
that
handy
multiple times.
when you're watching Family Feud with your dad and you're betting pennies on it. I walked out of that night with like $10.
Oh man, That's a lot of pennies.
That
is 1,000 pennies.
That is a whole lot of change I don't want.
But I say we weren't betting like 1 penny a question. I was like, hey,
that's more change than Obama had. I mean,
he wasn't ready.
Jokes. We don't have them.
No.
We're bad. We only think we are funny. I can only imagine like being on the other end, which I've never been on the other end of listening to this podcast without me being on it. So it's,
we could do that for you.
No, we can't, because then
just go downstairs.
Who's going to do all the work?
I think I've missed 2.
Yeah.
1 or 2.
And I'm always thinking that the people on the other end, it's like, do they really think that when we laugh, are they laughing with us, or are we just really laughing and they're thinking they're idiots?
That's what happens.
If they've listened this far up, it's most likely that they kind of know us. They kind of know our personalities. They get our sense of humor, whether or not they find us funny or not. So
I actually have had 2 people tell me they think we're idiots.
That's awesome.
It's only 2, though.
Well, one of them is Keith's wife.
No, 2 people that I don't normally talk to on a regular basis. Which I thought was even funnier. They're just coming up out of the blue. It's like, yeah, you guys are kind of dumb on that podcast. I'm like, oh, thank you.
We're kind of dumb on the podcast. Man, I wonder who they were. I'd like to see if they can do this better than us.
Probably.
Don't let your ego get hurt.
No, I'm dead serious. Maintaining an hour and a half to hour and 45 minutes of conversation about different things, it's a lot tougher than people think.
That's why we can't do it most of the time.
We do it every night.
Yeah.
Well, every week.
Well, we attempt to.
I was about to say.
Honestly, when we were younger, we did it
fill
every
the
night.
space.
And yeah, that's it was something I was thinking about the other day, actually, because you think about public speaking and people actually putting their voice out there. And even, so this is my last semester of college, and I've had a lot of like presentations to do this semester. And a lot of people are absolutely petrified of talking in front of people and just like putting their ideas out there and having to fill even 3 minutes worth of time, people listening to them. And I remember there's a certain point where I felt that the first few episodes, that's why they were really rough. But now, we have this is episode 49.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's almost 100 hours worth of content.
Yeah. For us, you're right.
Yeah. And so it's become this thing where it's the skill that we develop over time. So, a lot of people can say that we're dumb and that we don't know what we're talking about, but that's the thing. We admit that.
Yeah.
We admit that we're not the smartest people.
I think maybe episode 49 is a good, before we take our break, is a good time to tell people the purpose of this podcast is not to educate.
Right.
God, no.
We are giving our opinions and thoughts and what we think we know from what we've learned in school, what we've learned in church, what we've learned in our life, just experiences that we've had, placing it to these different topics, and we've had some very good episodes with some very intellectual talk. We've have those. We've had some episodes that were pointless.
Like this one.
But
Absolutely.
But the point for me is man, we get to sit down and record our thoughts and how we feel and conversate. We're just a bunch of guys hanging out, conversating about topics that we want to talk about. And that's the great thing about podcasts. About our podcast is that, we run it, we produce it. We're not trying to make any money from it. We just, if we were, we would probably do things a lot differently, and work on getting sponsors and all these different things. But we're just doing this because this is what we want to do. We felt like we had a voice to share. Mm-hmm. We want people to hear it and know why we're doing it. And we want people to love each other. And
exactly.
I think with the different personalities and different backgrounds that we bring together on this show makes it very apparent.
Absolutely.
So let's take a break. We'll come back with some meat and potatoes. We haven't cooked them yet, so we don't know how they're going to turn out yet. But saying all that, we'll be back in maybe a few seconds.
I'm just
None of my controls are working tonight the way I want them to, but it's okay, because again, we're not professionals. We and maybe at some point we'll do this thing so great that we'll be like really professional, but right now we're not.
Probably not.
But welcome back. That was, if you don't know, "Take Me Out" by Franz Ferdinand.
Yep.
Rock black. Rock band classic.
Your Brunswick County showing.
It's not Brunswick County. First off, that's my speech impediment coming out. So, y'all know I took like speech therapy for like 8 years to get rid of a stutter.
Yeah, so did I, but not for a stutter, just because of ways I pronunciated words.
Yeah. He said it right. Pronunciate.
I just never heard it that way. Like I knew it sounded right, but I just never heard it. So I was like, wait, that's a word.
I know. I double thought it myself. I was like, wait.
Pronunciated.
Pronunciate is a word. I got schooled on that.
What's the difference between pronunciate and pronounce, or pronunciated and pronounced?
I don't know, but it is a word.
One's an action verb, probably. And one's a past tense adverb.
I gave a girl a really hard time about.
Verbs.
I gave a girl
Action,
a really hard
adverb,
time about that.
Neither one is an adverb, though.
Are you sure pronounce is not an adverb?
Positive, it's a verb.
Because I'm just throwing things out there that I remember from English class.
Well, I know it's a word because I said, no, it's enunciate, not pronunciate. And she goes, no, it's a word. And I was like, no, it's not. And then we pulled it up on the phone, and therefore it was a word.
Enunciate is a word, though, also.
Yes, it is. But I thought she was trying to say enunciate. But she said pronunciate. And I'm like, well, what's the difference? And it's not real. And I still don't remember. But I knew I was schooled that it was a word.
Interesting.
I'm looking it up right now.
So, and that's that spillage of time.
Hey, man, we got like another hour to fill, so...
It'll be all right. So
we still don't know what we're talking about, by the way.
We said we were winging it. We could talk about plenty of things. I mean, it's Thanksgiving. We could talk about what we think about Thanksgiving. We can be a little, serious about Thanksgiving. I saw a meme today.
Yeah.
Okay. It was a Thanksgiving meme. And this may not be as lighthearted as I want it to be, but it made me think about it. Okay, so it's a picture of a family with all their heads bowing, and I think the meme, and gosh, I won't be able to remember it right off the top of my head, but the meme basically said it's funny that you celebrate a holiday.
Great job, Keith.
Shut up. I'm going to have to find the meme, and that means I'm going to edit all this out trying to find this stupid meme.
Well, on the side note, I can't find it in Google, so therefore I don't care.
Go ahead. I know what you're talking about. It's the meme where it has the Native Americans and the Pilgrims, and it kind of has the words that are basically like, we're celebrating a time when we were refugees and let in, but at this time we're also rejecting refugees out of our country, and it's sort of, and I see their point, and it's going along the same sort of meme as you see with a lot of Christians have been posting, especially a lot of, I don't mean these in like the political terms, but more like liberal Christians versus, conservative, posting about, how, Jesus let in the people who were downtrodden, and it's something we say all the time here on the podcast, and how I was hungry and you gave me food, I didn't have a place to sleep and you took me in and stuff like that, and them using the scripture as justification for that, and having a meme about Jesus saying that, and oh, what if they're terrorists, and he's like, did I stutter, something like that. So it's going along those same kind of lines about this whole political issue that's been going on recently.
How do you feel about the political issue of the refugees?
How do I feel?
And there goes the fun right out the window.
No, I just want to know.
No, okay, so for me, I probably follow more along those lines. I think that we should do what we can to make America and make this country a safe place for refugees and a safe place for people to come to escape atrocities that are happening in the world. I think our vetting process for that also is already very extensive, and not even counting that, a few days ago, there was a bill in the House that passed that made it even more difficult for refugees to come in actually requiring the director of the FBI to sign off on every single refugee that comes in.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
Which to me is ridiculous, because the vetting process already takes 18 to 24 months to do for refugees to come into this country. So I think a lot of it, at least on the other side, is driven by fear and driven by and I get it. It's national security, and you want to make sure our people are okay. But if history shows us anything, is that turning away people in need never turns out well in hindsight.
It's interesting.
And protecting ourselves and sort of rejecting other people groups in the name of national security has never made us look good in the past, such as the Japanese internment camp, such as turning away Jewish people in 1939, sending them back to Europe, where about a quarter of them died from the Nazis. And yeah.
Okay.
And so I'm definitely, I think that we should, have our arms open, that we should be aware that the vetting process is already very extensive the way it is. And that,
right.
And I definitely agree that, we should run background checks and we should, have that process for them to go through. But that the instant reaction especially of, I think it was like 31 governors just saying, oh, no, we're not going to accept refugees, even though they can't do that. It was really sad to me, really, overall, that happened. But that's just my perspective. But
right.
I mean, you can agree, disagree, but that's just how I see it.
Do you have a thought on that, Keith?
One last thought before Keith goes.
Go ahead.
But and I think that especially we as the church, if we call ourselves Christians, that we should have our arms open to those people in need, regardless if they are our enemies. Jesus said to love our enemies, and that includes, I think, refugees that could potentially be terrorists. Even though I definitely don't think that that even most of them are. I think very, very few of them could even potentially be terrorists. But yeah, and it's just tricky how you get the state, and again, that comes to church-state kind of separation there. But it seems, last thing, it seems counterintuitive. This is the thing I've been thinking about and kind of mulling over for the past week and a half, is that how can, especially, and I'm going to rag a little bit on the right, the political right. How can you say that you want to return to Christian values and have America founded on Christian values and return to that, and we need to have those values, and yet turn away the very values that Jesus taught to bring in people who are in need and to look after the widows, the orphans, and it's just mind-boggling to me. But anyway, go ahead, Keith. Or not.
No, sorry, I'm looking at Facebook. Keith keeps scrolling through his Facebook.
Yeah, what you had to say was really important, Justin. I totally feel what you're saying. But Facebook, so yeah, whatever.
No, but I mean, I have mixed feelings about it, because I agree with Justin on his points about accepting people in need, people that have faced great difficulty in their homeland, who need a place of escape. I totally agree with him, but at the same time, I definitely understand the fear factor that's involved, and I understand a lot of people are very skittish about letting massive groups of people in the country at a time like this. My general thought is, if the people are being properly vetted, then I'm okay. Come on. Whoever needs to come to the United States, come on. But, it's tough for me to really have a hard stance on it, because, I just see both sides, and it's really tough to lean one way or the other really, really, really hard. So that's pretty much how I feel.
You want to chime in there, Bubba?
I don't know. I mean, I have opinions for days, but at the same time, they're all very... Okay, not all of them. A lot of them are very ignorant and short-sighted because I haven't taken the time to look into it more. The only thing I've seen are what my still active duty Army friends are posting that they're seeing around Germany, and some of them were in Greece and on vacation when there was refugees coming in there, and a lot of the, I don't want to say camps, but like the areas designated for refugees to go while they're, in processing and getting moved into the country, 90% of them are run by riots and looting and attacks. They're just rampant with crime. And that leads me to believe that a lot of these people aren't looking for peace. They're just looking to start a war elsewhere. And that's what I'm seeing around the world. We're hearing from the media that they're just refugees looking for a new place, but I'm seeing from unbiased groups that they're just people fighting wherever they're allowed to go. And not all of it's violent. It's just, causing chaos.
Yeah, I've heard a couple of different stories from overseas from a couple of people saying that they've had that they had a place set up for 3 million people with air conditioned tents.
Yep.
That they had these refugee camps set up, and they decided not to use them, or they wanted to go somewhere else. And I mean, that I'm hearing this from somebody else, but the way I look at it is, I mean, if you're going to speak from a theological point of view, a Christian point of view, then opening your arms and accepting them. But what does that really entail? Jesus is like, yeah, love your enemies. But, Paul also says, there's so many different doctrines that can go along with that. Do you sit down and eat with your enemies? Do you let them in your house?
Yeah.
Do you put yourself in harm's way to love them?
Yeah, and it's really tough, especially in this situation, because I don't think we can speak to it strictly as the church, because
it's not a strictly church thing.
Right. It's,
because there's people out there that are affected by this that don't believe the same way.
Well, and the thing is we're, even within the church, a lot of us are starting to say, look, we're not a Christian nation. There are a lot of Christians here, but we're not a Christian nation. So should we run the country based upon Christian principles? So
no.
that's really tough.
I mean,
to say.
To a point, not Christian principles, but general human decency principles, which a lot of Christian principles are.
I can definitely see that perspective.
Yeah, I'm going to look at it from an infrastructure point of view. All right, how many are you going to let in, and do you have the infrastructure to support them?
Right now, we certainly don't, because we have 33,000 homeless veterans that are accounted for. There's many more that aren't, let alone homeless children, women, men, that there are very little to few programs in place to help them. So how are we going to be able to house 10,000 more people that we know have nothing?
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying
we should turn them away, but we can't support them.
But if you're going to let people in, you need to have an infrastructure in place.
Yeah. Is it beneficial to the people you're trying to help if you can't help them how they need to be?
I mean, right. Okay, say you bring 10,000 refugees in. Say, okay, we want to love them. We want to bring them in. But when you bring them in, there's nothing for them. And there are 10,000 homeless. Now there are 10,000 homeless refugees living in cities and places throughout America who have nothing, that will end up on the streets just like the other homeless people will be.
Instead of just being lost, without nothing, they'll be lost, confused, and angry.
The only really effective way to do that would be to actually have sponsors, like private sponsors, who would be willing to let them come into their homes and live. That's really the only effective way I think we could do that.
Okay, and Justin, while you're venting and boiling over, gosh, go ahead.
No, I mean, I agree with the individual sponsors. That'd be awesome if we could actually rally people to do that and have people host them in homes and stuff like that. I think that'd be awesome. But when you say that we can't accept them because our infrastructure is not ready to accept them, to me, it seems more humane, and it seems like a better just human decency thing to do. Not even putting religion in it. Just strict human decency point of view. For someone to for us to accept people into our country, and for us to not to have quite the infrastructure, and perhaps they might be homeless. I hope they wouldn't be, but if that's the case, it's better that than to be in a war-torn country where you have to worry about you, your wife, your children possibly getting shot and getting a bomb dropped on them every minute of every day.
What would you rather worry about, though? Being shot or a bomb dropped on you, or your family starving to death? It's a lose-lose situation for them no matter what.
I know, but if they are in a super oppressive regime and are so in a war-torn society like that, is it not better for them to be over here?
Okay,
in a place where they know, well, hopefully, going to have a bomb dropped on them at any moment.
So the process should be wherever there's war-torn areas and countries and these things that are happening, everybody should just go, okay, let's open our borders to all the people who want to cross. I mean, I'm going back over all the years. I just go back, to Bosnia. Those people who were being, attacked and just, it was genocide. That was like literal genocide in Bosnia.
Right.
There was no refugee influx of Serbs or Muslims or Bosnians or of any sort into America at that point.
Right.
But now we have this one Syrian crisis, and everybody's in an uproar about this one. Why this one? Why does this one, this war, this group of people has the most controversy I've seen in the past 10, 15 years?
I'll tell you why. And it all started within the past week and a half. It's because of what happened in Paris, and it was found out that one of the attackers came into the country posing as a Syrian refugee. And that is what's causing it.
Okay.
Because something bad happened.
All right. So something bad.
Not only something bad happened, but something bad happened in a city.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Because I just think of all the. I mean, let's just be frank.
It hit close to home to us.
Well, that's one. But what I'm saying is that
it became real for a lot of us.
Right. But you don't hear of these mass group of refugees outside of when the whole thing in Haiti happened, when the earthquake happened, and but that was a whole different ball game.
Yeah.
That was like really close to us. We were their first stop, so to speak. But I think of all the different civil wars that are going around the world, all these places that are war torn. I mean, Syria is not the only place that's having wars and things like that going on right now, but this is the only place that we see refugees flooding in. And of course we see it. It's been very outspoken, like y'all said, because of the Paris. But this is why this one outside of Paris. Why these refugees moving in influx through the countries? Is this place the worst, the most?
I don't know, because I've never seen anything like it. I mean, even well before the Paris incident happened, there was huge news stories about a month ago about the state of Eastern Europe trying to accept so many refugees, and them just not being able to handle them all, or not being willing to handle them all.
Yeah.
This is the most I've ever heard as far as the refugees crisis is
Right.
concerned.
Before I say something, I want to ask, how advanced is Syria? Because I've never even really looked into it. Do they have documentation to prove you're a Syrian person, a Syrian citizen? Or is it just kind of like you live there for a bit and you're Syrian?
Well, I know they have some systems. I know they issue passports.
Okay.
But I don't know enough about them to...
Syria is not that big of a country.
Well, it's not a
land
large...
size, I would say they probably have a massive population per land size ratio than most places. I would say that.
I mean, there are millions of people living in Syria. Yeah. And the issue is that there is so much happening in Syria right now.
You know what I see it as?
So many people are trying to leave Syria.
No, you know what I see it as? Just my cynicism. It's a war tactic. Spread them across the nation so they have things everywhere, and then one universal strike. That's what I'm expecting. And that's why I'm... Hey, don't give me that face, Justin.
No, keep going.
It's not the first time it's happened.
I mean...
Maybe not on this scale, but this war in that area of the world has been going on for, 14, 15 years now? It's just been moving around in that general region. from country to country.
Longer than that.
Well, I see what you're saying, and I would agree that would be a great tactic. But I don't know that that's.
I don't think that's what's going on here.
I mean, granted, I would not be surprised at all if there were many members of ISIS attempting to do what you're saying, because we've seen it happen in France. But I don't think that would be the majority of the people we're talking about. I don't think that's why there's this.
I'm definitely not saying every single person that's a refugee is doing this, but that's what they're. The people leading certain groups of refugees, like, every group has like a certain person they follow, because it's not just everyone for themselves flocking in one direction. There's like someone's like, hey, I heard this, let's go this way. That's kind of how groups work, right? We can agree to that. Maybe not an appointed leader, but someone everyone's like, okay, we'll listen to this guy. Right?
Typically, yes. I don't know about in the situation.
Okay.
I see what you're
speaking in theoreticals.
Yeah.
So what's to say that these individuals that are natural leaders aren't the ones leading these groups as a cover? I mean, that's just me being the skeptic that I am, because it's fully what I expect to happen.
I think it's more conspiracy theory.
Yeah,
no, it's not conspiracy theory.
I mean, I don't necessarily see the basis for all of that you're saying.
I think what has people more scared about and not to jump all over the place, but I think the biggest thing that people have that are scared about, the refugee situation is that you have massive amounts of people influxing into an area.
How do you vet them? How do you make sure? How do you
not only that,
your people safe?
That's the thing. How do you keep your people safe?
Yeah.
We can go, like I said, you can go from a Christian perspective, like we were talking about earlier, and say, we need to open our arms and trust and love like, Jesus did. But then you have the human perspective, which is self-preservation.
Exactly. It goes back to the point. Is the government, is their responsibility to be humanitarians, or is their responsibility to try and best protect the citizens of their own country?
Right. And that's a good question, Justin. What do you think about that question?
I think it's setting up a false dilemma. I think it should do both to the best of its ability. Of course, government should go to whatever lengths to protect its citizens, to provide for the well-being of its citizens. However, it should not do that to the extent of excluding other groups or other groups of people who are not its citizens. We've seen that happen throughout history plenty of times, where either in the name of national security or for the people, for nationalism, under nationalism, where one people group is targeted and excluded and put on as the other, where all the fears and all the anxieties about that a nation faces are put on this people group, and then they are therefore persecuted because of it.
Yeah, well, as far as American history, I don't know how much that follows, because what we were speaking of before were two specific groups, one of them being Japanese Americans who were already in this country.
Yeah.
And we rounded them up and contained them. Yeah. That's not what we're talking about at all in this situation. This is talking about not.
I wasn't referring to that either.
Okay. What? Okay. Maybe I'm not understanding where you're coming from then.
Yeah. What is our goal? I mean, if, like I said, put religion aside, and you look at it from what a government has to do for its nation. Okay, and Justin says we've got to figure out how to do both. I guess protect our citizens but not exclude people. Okay, I can understand it, and what I was going to say too at the same time was, I understand there's a mass influx. Say there's 10,000 people coming in, and in that 10,000 there's 1,000, 2,000 that are criminally hard and violent people who are going to cause a lot of trouble. Okay, that in that group may pull more to their side. So you got to balance that. They say you don't throw the whole batch of apples out for one rotten apple, right? So we're not going to say we're going to throw out the whole batch of refugees because there's a few in there that could be a terrorist or just violent criminals who are going to come in and do things, which we have those anyways in our nations anyways. How do we effectively, and like I said, we don't know what we're talking about. We're just speaking. Justin's getting mad at us.
I'm not mad. It's just,
but I guess for me, being as old as I am now and seeing so much and being in places, I've been places and seeing the very nasty side of the human race. I've seen the very good side of the human race. I've seen what genocide in war-torn areas look like. They've broken me at my heart. I think that's what's connected me to God more. I think what connected me to God more was the indecency of human beings, but yet still seeing good through all that, what can happen. But on the other side, when I think about like science and like self-preservation and being just a human being and trying to keep myself and my group ahead of everybody else, thinking, I don't know, that idea of just, I want what I am and who I am to preserve and stay longer than anybody else. That's something, I don't know, biologically in me that sometimes that overrides my sense of love and emotion. I don't know if that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it does.
No, I get that.
So that's my balance in it. It's not the fact that I don't want them to come in, but how do we let them in, but yet I protect my children and I protect my friends, or do I take the mantra of some, and I don't want to call them hippy dippy Christians, but there's those people who just like love them and be blind to everything else, the whole turn the other cheek kind of thing. I'm going to bring them in whether they kill me or not, because we want to give them that chance. And I'm not saying, and let me before anybody makes a statement, I'm not saying that these refugees are going to come in and kill us, but that's the probability of what people are thinking in their minds. Oh, there's, they're Muslims or they're terrorists. It's not that. It's like there is the thought of something going wrong.
Well, and the problem here, to me, the thing that I understand, where a lot of people who are let's keep everybody out is coming from is, you could have well over 99% of the people that want to come into the country be model citizens, but if you slip up with one, a lot of people are afraid to take that risk.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, and
which is crazy.
It is crazy.
Well, is it crazy from a national security?
No. I mean, I understand it, but
I agree. That's not Christ-like. I agree with that. But as far as the people in government trying to make these decisions, is that crazy?
Yeah, it's a load to bear.
When these people are coming from a country that has been eat up with extremist violence, and we know that there are thousands upon thousands of people in that country. In fact, some people think there might be millions in that country right now who are extreme terrorists and would like nothing more than to cause another incident like we saw in Paris.
It's a balancing act. It's really hard.
Yeah, and I'm glad I don't have to make these decisions because I couldn't do it.
No, because it does tug, like Justin. It tugs at his heart because he has this, I don't know, he has this will to this way to kind of look past everything. It's like they're just a human being, and it's hard for some of us because we've been down roads where we've had to face certain things, and you're like, how. It's really hard to trust a person. That's why we talk about this. That's why we're talking about it on this show. We didn't plan on talking about this tonight, but I think it's a good topic for us to talk about because it is Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving was kind of built around the whole, do I want to call them refugees?
See, that's...
I don't think they're really refugees.
When we were talking about the meme, I was like, yeah, that's also not a good comparison.
No,
because
it's not.
It was more of like, oh, hey, this is land and there's not people that I can really see here in a civilized manner, so let's just stake a claim to it.
Whoa,
yeah.
Whoa. Back up a second.
But that's what happened.
Is that not what happened?
Happens every Sunday.
Is that not what happened?
Wait, what are you guys talking about right now?
We're talking about
football.
We're talking about the comparison between the people,
the settlers,
the settlers of the New World, and refugees. Basically, the Pilgrims, I think, is what we're talking about, because they were the refugees that came over.
Right.
The other people weren't refugees. Did they not just kind of stake a claim to this land?
Yeah. I mean, they came over and stuck a claim to it. Yeah.
That's why I'm saying it's not a good comparison, because they were refugees running from religious oppression. That's true.
Yes.
But they got here and they took it. It wasn't like there was a large civilization that had to let in these refugees. It's here's land and there's some other people here, but they're not civilized, so let's take it.
But we had the means to take over.
Yeah.
Whereas they don't. These refugees today don't.
That's why I'm saying it's a horrible comparison.
Yeah, kind of.
You're both arguing the same point. You just both want to argue right now.
No, I don't think it's. But I think it's. Technically refugees, but Syrians are not coming in and taking over a claim to land.
Exactly.
I can get that. I think it's reversed. The refugees that came over from Europe were we're going over there and we're just taking it. We're not asking to be let in. We're not.
Yeah, and I don't even know that a lot of the groups, like the Pilgrims, as a large group, for example, I really don't think that they were all coming over and saying, "Oh, we're just Indians. We're going to take it anyway." I think they were legitimately wanting to get away from England. And I
don't blame them.
I actually really like England, but anyway, and then they got here and it was like, well, how can we survive and live here? Because we're not going back.
Yeah, look, it's a tough subject. I mean, we're just talking. I mean, that's what it is. We're talking because everybody's talking, but I think it's good to talk because people will listen and go, well, he's got a point and he's got a point, but I don't really agree with him, and I think what he's saying is just totally wrong, and it's fine because that's what people should do. Justin, it's hard for me because I would love and when I go back to talking about the infrastructure thing, the thing for me about the infrastructure was that it wasn't the fact that we should keep them out because we don't have the infrastructure, but we should plan. Mm-hmm. Because I understand that, they may not want to be in a war-torn area and be homeless here, but for me, it's like you already have millions of people homeless. Would I dare to say that?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
And you want to add more people to that population that puts even more stress on the infrastructure that's already in place?
Well, I mean, we already have fights and political fights and arguments all the time about people coming from right next door in Mexico. I mean, and again, I don't think that's... I'm not going to say that we should close our border to the south either, but if that is raising issues, it's obviously foreseeable that there are going to be issues letting people in from anywhere in mass quantities. I
mean, my thing is that it's not the fact that we can't, but my thing is it's not the fact that we can't provide for it. It's just that I think as a government, as an American government, say 10,000 people, 10,000 refugees, I'm fine with bringing them in. I don't care about the vetting process or whatever. I'm fine with bringing them in. But take the time to provide an infrastructure for those people that you're bringing in.
Right.
But at the same time, put even more care into the people that are already here as well, that have no place, that are like, they're not refugees, but they're in, they don't have war-torn areas that they had the risk of being bombed and killed at any moment, which actually they had the risk of being killed at any moment anyways, but the fact is that we've got people here too, so put your time and effort into that as well. I mean, we have enough space in our country and enough places that are not being lived in, that are abandoned areas, that they could have put a little money into and they could fix for people. That doesn't change anything when we're talking about infrastructure. The government's only going to do what is best for the government. That's how I feel.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think it's about protecting people and this. It's what gets them votes and what gets them money and what puts them in the right position to make more money. That's how I feel about it, because we are an American society that is built on making more money.
Capitalism.
We're not very good at it, though.
We're
pretty good at it.
We're very good at it.
Why are we so far in debt, though?
That's because that's the whole point behind making money.
I agree to an
get out of
extent.
debt?
I definitely agree as far as elected officials are concerned. But there are also a lot of people in government who aren't elected, who maybe have military backgrounds, things like that, who, I think they are seriously concerned about national security. And those are a lot of the people making a lot of the big decisions.
Yeah.
I mean, we pretend like the president makes really, really big decisions as far as national security.
He's just a figurehead,
and he does. No, he has a lot of power.
Yeah,
but most of the decisions, quantity wise, are not coming from him.
Especially with presidents like we have now that have no military background. Yeah. He's not going to sit there and argue with someone about something that's done it for years. He might have a say, but if they honestly have evidence and stuff behind why they're wanting to do what they want to do, he'll most likely back it.
Yeah, agree. Interesting conversation.
Say what's on your mind there, big guy.
I mean, I love the conversation. It's the conversation is good. I love hearing everybody's points of view. I made points that, quite frankly, don't mean much. Probably very asinine comments I made,
I've
but
heard some good ones.
But my thing is that at the end of the day, do you? All right. Let's say you had to make the decision, okay, and we'll move on to something else that's a little less.
Yeah.
But say you sat there and you had to make the decision to let the refugees in, okay, with what you knew, intelligence-wise and everything, okay, and you're the one who had to pull the plug, saying yes or no. Would you let them in?
I don't. That's tough because I'm not going off of the same information that person.
No, I understand. But just saying with what we know now, with the little bit of knowledge that we know and how we feel in our heart and how we attach to our religion and Christianity and everything like that, what would you do as a person?
Considering all of that, I would probably... I couldn't deny the people. I honestly couldn't.
What about you, Chris?
Under a circumstance that if we did let them in, it'd be like on a one-for-one thing. We bring in one of them, we also help one of our own.
Okay.
Interesting.
Justin? I know what Justin
let him in.
Say. Yeah. And I agree with you.
I have no problem letting him in. It's just that it irks me that we seem to be ignoring the fact that we have
and I think that's one of the key factors for a lot of people in our nation that are just like, and I'll make this statement too. I remember somebody in church one time saying, why am I giving money to a kid in Africa when we're not feeding the kids in America? And I'm like, well, you have the choice to do that. Some people choose to send money overseas to help them. And it's like, well, you shouldn't help. What was it? Mission should start in your home before it goes out of your home first. That kind of, and for me, that sticks me in the skin because I don't like that mentality.
Well, for me, then what are you doing to help the people in your home?
Exactly. Well,
you can complain about it all day and be like, oh, why don't we just help people who are here instead of people who are overseas? Well, okay, then fine, great. What are you doing to do that?
But that was my point to them.
Nothing?
I'm like, no,
okay,
but that's my point. My point to them was so where's your money going at home? Who are you helping? What charity, what organization are you helping here? So if you don't want the refugees to come in and you're just like, hey, we need to help our homeless here, how are you helping your homeless here? So me, I'm like you and Keith, Justin, I'd let them in. I mean, from what knowledge I know and the ties to religion, but I'm kind of like Chris too. I'm like, I would want something to be in place. So if I let them in, I would have, and if I had the ability to let them in, I would have the ability to make sure they were, in the proper place, had something to go to, and that they would be able to become, if you're coming into our country and you're going to be a part of this population and this citizenship, then you will have to learn how to adapt to this citizenship and be a part of the country, not just be your own group of people. That, there is a nationality here. If you go to France, you're going to become a part of the French nation. You come to the American nation, you become a part of the American nation, which an American nation, what did that really look like anymore?
football and
you gotta love football.
burgers.
You gotta love football.
Gotta be able to understand English. Maybe not speak it, but at least understand.
Yeah, I'm going to go with you.
I don't know how I feel about that.
So we shouldn't have a national language?
I know how I feel about that. I disagree, but it's okay.
So we shouldn't have a national language?
Interesting point.
I'm not saying like you have to be able to speak it, but like if I speak to you, at least understand. Way to go, Kyle. Answer it from here.
No. Sorry about that.
See, I don't know.
That's an interesting thing, Justin.
What?
I've never understood the issue with that. I've never understood the counter argument to that. You should learn to speak the language that the majority of people in that nation speak. I've never understood the counter argument.
I mean, I learned German when I was living in Germany for 2 years. I didn't expect them to speak English. Most of them did.
I feel like that's a very American thing to say. To argue the opposite of that, even though there are plenty of Americans, obviously, who, like us, believe that you should learn that language. I feel like that's a very American thing to say, oh, no, they don't need to learn the language. I'm sorry.
Because we're trying to be PC and accept everyone.
That's
the way I see it.
Yeah, maybe so.
I just thought it was an interesting comment because... Go ahead, Justin.
No, I totally see it the opposite way. I think us as Americans... we are expecting other people from other cultures to speak English. And even when say I went to other countries, when I ran into other Americans or when I went abroad with other Americans, they made very minimal effort to speak the language of the people that they were going to.
Were they living there or were they staying there for a short period of time?
I knew people of both.
So they were naturalizing into that country.
Yes.
And they made no attempt to learn that language whatsoever.
And what my point is that, so I definitely think that people who do come over to this country should at least attempt to, start to learn our language, and because that's what most people speak here in America is English. I mean, on a very practical level, English should be learned. However, I often feel like it comes with the connotation of, they're American, they should be able to speak English, and forsake their other language in order to learn this language.
No, I've never heard that argument either.
I'm not.
Like, I've never heard anyone say you should never speak Spanish again.
Yeah.
Don't do it. You're American now. Only speak English.
It comes with the connotation that they shouldn't speak Spanish. They should speak English.
When associating with people who speak English as a primary language, yes.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I mean, I don't see that argument that you're making, Justin, because I would never want somebody who speaks Spanish or Korean or Italian or German or anything to stop speaking their language. But like when I go into, let's say
that's the thing. I know you guys don't see it, but there's a lot of people here who, if you come to America, you have to speak our language.
Okay.
And not.
Okay, I'll use this example. Okay,
go for it.
When I went to France, and I went and when I went to France, and I went into places to get stuff, when I spoke in English, I didn't get anything. Now, of course, there's places.
Same here.
Of course, there's places in Paris that some people speak English, but when you go out to the outskirts into other towns, you have to understand their language. You have to be able to speak.
Absolutely.
And
I did the same thing in Italy.
But that's what I'm saying. This is my point. When I go into that McDonald's in Danone, I have to speak French to them to get my order, or I have to point to things, and which is kind of embarrassing, because now I seem like I'm hey dummy, you can't learn basic, enough basic French to get an order of a place that you prepared to go to. Okay. So I must adapt to their language. I must adapt to that nationality at that point. And if I choose to live there, then I better learn French. Mm-hmm. I don't have to stop learning English or speaking English in my home or to people that speak English, but I have to learn to speak French.
Right.
My point is the same thing, is not the fact that, I would tell a Spanish, or when a Mexican comes into our country, not that you have to stop speaking Spanish in your home and speaking Spanish to your friends and people who speak Spanish, but if you go into a McDonald's to order food where all the people speak English, that you have to learn enough English to order your food.
Right.
Instead of me having to make a concession for you, where in any other country around the world, they don't make concessions for other people with other languages. America is the only place that does that, huh?
It's a preach.
But I mean, America is the only place that does that.
Yeah.
And I understand why we do it with Spanish, because we have so many Spanish-speaking people in our country now.
Yeah.
So it's beneficial to those businesses to do that because they can make more money. But
absolutely, I work at a business that we have many Spanish speakers, many transplants, particularly from Mexico, as customers, and we have several Spanish speaking customer service reps,
exactly,
for that very purpose.
Yeah,
and people call in all the time. They'll be like, "Someone speaks Spanish?"
Yep.
I'm like, "Okay, yeah, let me transfer you."
And that's fine, but it's like, there's some people that do come to the country and they say, well, I'm not going to learn English at all. I'm not going to adapt to this culture that I'm living in, that I'm being a part of. And that, to me, seems countercultural or counter-effective to what's actually going on, because I couldn't go to France and do that. I couldn't go to China and do that.
No.
You learn their language.
See, the interesting thing is it takes me back to a movie I've seen. And it's funny because there's a very similar situation going on. And it's a movie set in France. It's starring Michael Caine, by the way. It's a great movie. I'm trying to remember the name of it. It's called something about love. But anyway, he's a guy from England. Or no, he might be from America, actually, in this. I'm trying to remember what accent he has. But anyway, he's an English speaker. And the running joke throughout almost the entire movie is the fact that he's living in Paris and he doesn't speak a lick of French, and everyone gets pissed at him and everyone makes fun of him, because I think he is American, because the running joke is, stupid American comes to France and won't learn French. Yeah, that's it. Last Love. It's a very good movie. It's got the girl that plays Fleur de Licoeur from Harry Potter, and it's a good movie. But the thing is, he softens and finally starts learning some French when he meets the girl and this and that. And I feel like that's expected most places. If you move to a location to spend the rest of your life, you assimilate into that culture.
Right.
Now, that doesn't mean you don't have certain distinctive cultural baggage that you bring with you and you keep and you nourish and you cultivate and try to continue with that. We see that in America a lot. I mean, we have several different festivals and things celebrating heritage of other nationalities, but those people are still very much Americans.
Yeah.
They've been here for forever and they speak English, Yeah. So I think it's an issue that shouldn't be an issue.
There's a point that I also want to make, that I know, matter of fact, my wife was telling me about a young man that she knows who goes to a high school, and he is Mexican, I think. He speaks Spanish, but his English is horrible. I mean, barely any. And he's in this high school, and he's not doing well because he doesn't understand any English in that school. Little to none. I understand he's going to have to learn, and he's learning, and he's trying to learn. But how hard is it for, people to come over and to try to assimilate into a nation when they cannot speak the language of the majority? I think about kids who go to, who are military kids, who have to go to schools off post. They go to schools off post, and they have to learn the languages of those school. They're English in a Japanese school, or they're English kid, or English speaking in a Korean school. How you can't learn that way. You do not learn and keep up with the others when you don't understand the language. Do we create special schools for the different kids who immigrate into the country?
Well,
no. Go ahead, Keith.
I was going to say, what we do now, currently, and we've done ever since I was in kindergarten, probably before then, is we actually adjust our schools to help those kids. When I was in elementary school, I didn't know exactly what it was at the time because I was too young to really understand. But every day we would have Hispanic kids leave class.
Yeah.
And they would go to their English as a second language course, their ESL course.
Exactly.
And so they would be learning English, specifically from a Spanish perspective. And that would take a lot of their day up. But that's one way that they were helping to assimilate.
Okay, cool. Well, and remember, I come from a time where if we had any kids who spoke Spanish in our school, it was maybe one or two. I mean, and they knew enough English to, well, matter of fact, they knew English as well as I did. So it was rare for me to see. But I mean, you know, I know we talked about it, and all of this bases around immigration, which is kind of cool because it is Thanksgiving week, which kind of bases around immigration. And Justin is
so.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead with your question.
No. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think at least with the issue of languages, my point that I'm trying to get at, which I feel like is partially my fault, failure to communicate it, is that what we should do about it is that what Keith said, we should have programs for, you know, children who are struggling to learn English to be able to learn English, and not expect them to speak perfect English and berate them because of it. Because that happens a lot. I've seen it happen a lot.
That's just because there's ignorant jerks in the world. You're not going to get rid of all of them.
Right. But we should do that. But also, I think that we should also be teaching other languages at a very early age as well. To be able to communicate with other people, especially people who say at least Spanish.
But what if I don't want my kid learning Spanish?
So,
you know,
why not let your kid learn Spanish?
What if I want him to learn another language?
That makes him a better global citizen.
But what if I want him to learn another language?
Like French.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
Or Korean.
Have him learn French.
Let's see.
That's actually kind of special too.
We've done that for years, though.
Yeah. I mean, my kids have been learning different languages. Yeah.
That was a required part of my kindergarten curriculum, was learning Spanish.
Yeah.
Same.
It was not for mine.
Really?
I'm pretty sure there was an elective in elementary school that was Spanish.
Yeah, there was the entire time I was in elementary school, there was a specific Spanish teacher who would come to the room and teach Spanish. And we had that all through elementary school. And then when you get to middle school, it becomes a true elective, even though it's required.
Yeah.
You have to have Spanish every year. And then, really, where did you go to school? Was it Brunswick County?
Backwoods.
Okay, I was about to say.
Yeah.
It wasn't Brunswick County because it's been like that for 20
Decades.
years.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely not for us.
That's actually
the first time I ever had any sort of contact with Spanish. Well, it was my Spanish friends in like elementary school or whatever, but we weren't taught it or anything. But the first time I actually was able to study Spanish was high school.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, that's actually surprising to me because
I had Spanish when I was in middle school.
Yeah.
And that was way back.
Nope.
And then when I got to high school, I was like, no Spanish, I want French.
And that also kind of falls on the county's ability to find someone to teach Spanish.
Oh, that's true.
If there's nobody there willing to fill in the job, then they can't teach the students
That's part of the problem in rural areas.
Yeah.
You don't see that as much in more populated counties, but that can be an issue.
Because I remember when I went to West, they dropped French because the year that I went there, the French teacher had a mental breakdown and quit.
Not surprising.
Yeah. But for me, it's like, okay, my best friend is Costa Rican. Okay. His mom and dad, Costa Rican. All right. Because he's Costa Rican. Makes pretty much sense.
Oh, yeah, makes sense.
They speak Spanish. Well, they all do. Every time I went to the house, we all spoke English because they knew I didn't understand a lick of Spanish. They moved here from Costa Rica. Paul actually moved here when he was little. They came from Costa Rica. They all know English. I mean, of course, I'm not jumping all over, his dad because, sometimes I don't understand what he's saying because, I mean, let's be very frank about this. There's a lot of Americans who can't speak English right either.
True that.
Exactly.
So when somebody's talking about somebody else speaking English and they're jumping on them about it, I would suggest to listen to yourself first because I don't think too many people have a full mastery of the English language.
Right.
But for me, it's like, my problem is that you're only looking at one group. Everybody's like, you got to learn Spanish. We need everybody to learn Spanish. You got to learn Spanish. But what about all the other nationalities that are in our nation? And we're not talking about any other nationality. We just focus on Spanish because there's more people coming from Mexico than any other country to our country.
Sure.
And for me, I don't want to learn Spanish. I mean, I would much rather learn Korean, which I've learned now. I'm not a linguist. It's hard for me to learn another language. I can barely learn English. So I will never learn another language. I can learn certain words. I can say certain words. I can understand certain words, but not enough to carry on conversation.
Food is all you really need to know.
Pretty much.
I'm the same way, though. I was in Germany for, 2 years? I can barely say the basics because everything else is just so complicated to me.
But, for our kids growing up, I would love for my kids to know like 6 or 7 different languages. That is great. That carries them further in the world being successful. But right. I'm not doing it just because, I have to do it to be a certain person. Well, it's built out of success, I guess, for me.
Well, the interesting thing about kids learning second languages in the United States is it's very hard to put into practice.
It is.
It's extremely hard for American kids to put it into practice because the only people we really interact with on a daily basis that do speak another language might be Spanish speakers.
Yeah.
And most of them, when they're interacting with us, are primarily speaking English.
True.
See, the advantage that Europeans have with speaking other languages, why they tend to do it pretty well. I know some that are a little broken, but they much better than we do with our second languages.
Right.
Is because a 45-minute train ride from France and you're in England.
Yeah.
I mean, it's you're so assimilated with other nationalities, speaking so many different languages, all in that area. You've got, French, German, and then you have so many different dialects of different languages. Like, how many nations speak French but speak it slightly differently?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
You're right.
Same thing with Dutch.
Yeah, and you've got 5 or 6 strong languages right there in that continent. It's easier.
Like Latin.
Hey, don't hate on the dead languages.
Look,
It died for a reason.
I'll just say this. Just blame it all of those people who were at the Tower of Babel. If they just went and got all egotistical,
Bunch of idiots.
We could all be speaking one
the same
language.
We'd all be speaking Hebrew.
that's fine with me if that was the language at the time.
Yeah, I wouldn't know any different.
Yeah, me either. What's this language? I don't know. It's just what we speak. I don't know. I mean, we never really talk about, a lot of people don't talk about these subjects because they're sensitive. They don't want to say anything about them. Oh, I might offend somebody. We really don't. We really don't take the thought about offending somebody.
Yeah, that's more like an afterthought or an afterthought of an afterthought.
I probably do more so than you guys, but
Yeah, because
okay.
but the thing is if you're not able to speak your mind that's my thing. If everybody's going to be offended by something, just speak your mind, because you can't say anything without offending somebody.
Yeah.
If I say Merry Christmas, oh, I'm not a Christian. Oh, Happy Hanukkah. I'm not Jewish. Happy Kwanzaa. I'm not African. Happy holidays. I'm a Christian.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? Just say whatever you want to say. You know what? If you come
That's
up
a
to me and
good
say
point.
Happy Hanukkah, I'll be like, word. I don't care. That's your culture. That's the other thing for me. Don't get offended at somebody else's culture.
Yeah.
I mean, you got my favorite thing is okay. There's a lot of people who are like non-religious. I'm gonna call them atheists, but they're non-religious, and they're from the liberal standpoint of everybody should, nobody should oppress another culture, another religion. Okay. So they're like, don't say Merry Christmas because it offends everybody else. Say Happy Holidays. But but they never say, don't say Happy Hanukkah. They never say, don't say Happy Kwanzaa or Happy Saturnalia.
Merry Festivus.
It's sometimes for me, it's just like, just don't say Merry Christmas, because that's the only one I don't want to hear. Well, why? Why can't I say Merry Christmas? I mean, I'm celebrating gift giving.
Just in my personal experience, most atheists I know, that if I do say Merry Christmas to them, they're like, "Oh, thank you."
No, you're right.
Not really a big deal.
No, and I'm just speaking from the minority that have the loud voice.
Yeah.
That's all.
They're out there.
They are out there.
Mostly on Tumblr.
And most of the time, the only time I say Merry Christmas is if somebody says it to me.
Yeah, I really don't like initiating conversation either.
That's interesting because our behavior modifies even when we aren't being asked for it to be modified. I worked in, not retail, but I worked in a service industry where I worked at cash register for 8 or 9 years, still do occasionally. And I got to the point where I do not say Merry Christmas, and I don't know why, just to random people.
Yeah.
Like, and my coworkers would do it. They'd be like, oh, Merry Christmas. And I would just be like, have a good day. Because, like, I guess I just don't want to offend that random 1 in a million person who's going to walk in there and be like,
don't even think about it.
Yeah, I think I know what it is, Keith. It's not that you're trying not to offend anyone. It's just like the rest of us, the holidays have died in your soul and you don't care.
I see, that's the thing. I love Christmas. I still love Christmas. And I am pretty staunch on the fact that I will always love Christmas for whatever reason.
I feel like I'm going to love Christmas again when I move away from here and I get out of the stale repetition of this place.
I think you'll find it's pretty much the same everywhere. But
yeah, if you don't like it, you're not going to like it anywhere else.
My family kind of killed it.
Well, okay, maybe if it's your family. Maybe if your family.
Yeah, I was going to say, I didn't want to say I'm trying to get away from my family, but I'm trying to get away from my family. Hey, Charlotte, coming your way next year.
Justin, man, I love you.
I love you guys too.
We've been doing this almost a year.
Yep.
And this is like the most out there episode we've ever done.
Oh, yeah.
Are you sure about that?
I am very sure about that.
Yeah, man. There were some pretty out there ones earlier.
Well, I mean, but look, I think at the end of this episode, or before we take this next break, I'll say that we are all people. And you either have to take one or two stances. You have to take a stance of that, okay, I am a biological entity that needs to self-preserve and find any way to carry on this set of genes that I can. You know, the whole survival of the fittest kind of mentality. Whatever I can do to do that, I need to provide it. Or you got to come from it from whether it's you evolved morally or you have a faith-based religion that causes you to love other people, you know, then you have to look at people that we have to look at people as humans and they're the same as us and we all want to live together and we need to learn how to love each other. Right. I think that's how, you know, our point is that's how we want to address things. You know, people are people, right? You know, and we want to treat them as people. Right. And hopefully they'll treat us back as people. And I think that's what scares people the most is that they're going to put their neck out there and it's going to get chopped off. You know,
being vulnerable sucks.
Yeah, and it's really hard to put yourself out there to do that because, like Keith said, what if you let in 100 and 99 are fine, but that one, you know, that's the one that cuts your neck. You know, that's the scary thing. You know, how can you deal with that? And you know, I want people to be themselves. I want them to be who they are. You know, but they need to have the same concept for other people. You know, and it sounds like that's a condition, but it's not. You know, I'm going to love you whether you love me or not. That sounds weird. That's hard to do. I mean, we don't do it very well, but that's the point. That's the goal. That's what Jesus did. I'm going to love you whether you love me or not. You know, and that's the crazy thing, and that's why we do what we do at Forgetting Walls. You know, even though I started out in the very beginning, this is not a Christian podcast, but it is a Jesus-centric podcast. Sorry, our atheist friends and agnostic friends and our Buddhist friends, we are Jesus-centric because that's who we are as people. And we love you because you're not that way. You know, we love you because you're a human being and you sit next to us and you've talked with us and you've conversated with us and it's cool. And man, we've learned so much over the past year and it's getting to the point where it's going to be a year and we're going to be like, what do we do now? Keep loving people. Figuring out how to talk about it.
Rinse and repeat the last year.
Hopefully it'll be a little bit better than last year.
Hence the rinsing.
But if
it has to be.
Yeah, and I hope we didn't offend anybody tonight. But if we did, I do apologize because that's not the point. We're just kind of talking through things because we don't understand anything, honestly. I mean, who really understands it all?
I don't understand it all, but I understand something. Saying anything means I'm just stupid.
Well,
wow.
That's what we do. Because I feel like I don't understand hardly anything.
So offended right now.
Actually, I don't think I actually understand anything truly. Like when I really sit down and look at something and I go, do I really understand this? Unless it's 1 + 1.
I understand gravity pretty well.
Yeah, but what if gravity's proven wrong and we all got it wrong?
Yeah, I don't see that one happening.
Radical skepticism here.
You're getting way past me on the skepticism there, buddy.
It's fun. Anyways.
What if nothing's real? You guys aren't real.
If nothing was real, it would make all this so much easier.
But mildly depressing.
All right, guys and girls, we'll be back in a moment. And we're back. You probably don't want us to be back, but we're back. That was like one of my favorite tracks ever from Burden of a Day, Oleander. And it is, you can't get it anywhere. That's the thing. You can't go out and find this. So I'm sorry. Go check out A Burden of a Day, though, because it's a great band that I don't even know if they're still making music anymore. I don't think they are. But this is like, you remember those days of selling bootlegs out of your trunk? That's the kind of thing you're finding here.
I can. Okay, yeah.
No, we had file peer-to-peer file sharing.
Oh, that's right.
By the time that came along.
Yeah, I just I remember getting my first copy of the Wu-Tang Clan, the Enter the 36 Chambers, way back in the day, and it was not a bootleg copy, but it was a copy. It was a cassette tape that the guys from the band were selling out of the trunk in New York City, and a friend of mine, we were in the Army, bought a few of them, or brought them down and gave it out to a few of us they listened to, but they literally bought them out of the trunk of, like, I don't know if it was Method Man's car or one of the guys from Wu-Tang Clan. They were selling them on the street, like, way back in the day, and it was like before they actually got signed, and it was crazy. It's kind of cool.
That's pretty cool.
I was like, how'd you get this? I was like, this is great. It's like, Wu-Tang Clan, I love this, right? And they're like, oh man, I bought it from this dude out of the back of his trunk on the street. I think he was part of the group. And I was like, that's pretty killer. And then like a few months later, it came out like fully released. And I was like, man, that stuff was dope. Anyways,
Still got
Wu-Tang Clan.
You still got that cassette?
I might somewhere. I don't know. I'd have to
got
look.
that thing encased.
It's crazy what you come across when you're like not into the mainstream music scenes. But Justin,
Yes.
you're going to be in this week, and we're going to celebrate Thanksgiving one way or the other.
Yeah, that's true.
The best way to celebrate Thanksgiving, though, is with good beer.
That is true.
So bring
We'll have
one.
to do that.
Yes.
Hopefully not. Hopefully I won't have as much as I did last time.
And
me
if
an
you do,
invite.
you'll be at the house, and you won't have to worry about driving.
Exactly.
But we like to start celebrating Thanksgiving this year with a little story time with Keith.
Yeah. All right.
Just that sigh. It's like so defeated.
That's the highlight of my week. Storytime with Keith. Anywho, today's story comes to us from HuffPost, also known as the Huffington Post. This is from their Weird News section. Headline: Florida man in Darth Vader mask robs convenience store, say police. He escaped in a silver auto, not a Death Star. Looks like the force came down on Darth Vader. The police force, that is. Jacksonville Sheriff's deputies arrested a man on Sunday who allegedly attempted to rob a convenience store wearing a Darth Vader mask and chest plate around 5:30 p.m. The suspect, later identified as Jacob Jeremy Mercer, was carrying a silver handgun, not a lightsaber, according to Jacksonville.com. Police said when 32-year-old Mercer showed the pistol and demanded money from the clerk, the employee responded by chucking a jar of blue cheese dressing at the suspect. The jar of dressing hit Mercer on the face, according to WPTV.com. A man inside the store, who asked to be identified only as Ricardo, witnessed the altercation and admitted being a little frightened by it. "We looked at each other for a couple of seconds, and it was a little scary," Ricardo told FirstCoastNews.com. Ricardo said Mercer's face was bleeding from the jar of dressing during his escape. He ran to his car, sped off driving recklessly through a stop sign, and took a right onto First Street. I lost him from there. Police found Mercer's vehicle, a silver car with New York plates, not a Death Star, a short time later. Officers then went to the place where Mercer was staying and asked him to come outside. His nose was still bleeding, according to Jacksonville.com. Mercer of Tonawanda, New York, was arrested for armed robbery after a witness identified him as the robber. Police say they found several handguns and ammunition in Mercer's backpack. This isn't the first time a robber has dressed as Darth Vader. Back in March, a man dressed as Vader forced his way into a North Carolina bank and robbed it at gunpoint, stealing thousands of dollars in the process. In May 2012, another man in a Darth Vader mask robbed a bank in Toledo, Ohio, storming away with an undisclosed amount of cash. I think the dressing, that's the best part. He got chucked in the face by blue cheese.
I don't know, that's the part that
had to hurt. The jar just smacked him in the face.
Was he wearing the mask when it happened?
I would imagine so.
That might probably hurt worse. Those things aren't comfortable.
Yeah, that sucks.
But hopefully this is the last time we see of the robbing Darth Vader, seeing as there's only 3 movies. This is 3 robberies. That's the end of the trilogy.
So there's been 3.
Well, see, there's going to be 3 trilogies, and possibly more.
Yeah, but there's only one trilogy truly centered around Darth Vader. So there should only be one trilogy of robberies.
No,
there are
not
2
actually.
trilogies centered around Darth
Yes.
Vader.
You know what I mean?
Nope, there's 2 trilogies centered around Darth Vader and Anakin Skywalker. Can't let you get away with that one, bub.
Possibly 3.
Want them alive. No disintegration.
Remember that.
Disintegrate your
I
opinion.
wonder if he said anything cool. Did he say anything cool?
It didn't say.
Because I mean, like,
Probably not.
if you're gonna go up dressed as Vader, you got to be like,
You gotta own it, man.
yeah, you just can't go in there dressed as Vader. Like, I'm gonna be a copycat Vader, and I'm gonna go in here and like steal some stuff. You gotta,
Probably got the mask because the little chest plate changes his voice.
That's true.
He's probably trying to get away with it like that.
That's true. I had a costume like that when I was a kid. Or it might have been my brother's, but I wore it some. And it was a
of
Darth
course
Vader
it was your
mask,
brother.
and it had a microphone in it, and then it had a little box that it attached to.
Yeah,
And the
I have
box
one.
changes your voice into
I have
Darth
one.
Vader. Yeah, those things are cool.
I have one that's got the mask and the
Little chest
middle
plate.
box. The chest plate hangs from the mask. Yeah, I have that. I mean, I'm a big kid at heart. I'm wearing a
big
shirt with
kid
Vader on it
now.
right now. I mean, can you beat that?
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Exactly.
I'm wearing a Power Ranger
because
shirt.
when I walk into the room, I walk in. That's how I walk into the room. You know I'm coming in because, I mean, the Sith are bad, and that's just not a pun. I mean, they're bad.
Yeah.
Because I'm bad.
Yeah.
So bad.
Don't ever do that again. Don't equate Vader and Michael Jackson in the same sentence.
I don't know.
Ugh.
Both kind of.
Because I'm fat. I'm fat.
Okay,
I'm
Weird Al.
really fat.
Totally lost my train of thought.
Don't
Oh,
call me
my
Pudgy,
God.
Portly, or Stout, because I tell you once again, who's fat? Ding, 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 ding. That's the Weird Al's food album is
Probably the best
seriously,
he's ever
it's
made.
so good.
Yeah, that was not bad.
I actually had that
My
on
Bologna,
cassette. I had
the white
that album.
stuff.
My Bologna was great.
I had that album on cassette in Afghanistan,
La, la,
and we
la, la,
listened to it in a
lasagna.
little Tahoe every day. We had to drive around the fob. It was
Such
the
a
best.
good album.
Like everyone else had like Tupac or Biggie, and we're sitting there driving around with Weird Al. I was okay with it.
Oh my goodness. Well, guys, I hope y'all have a great Thanksgiving. I know.
Yeah, you too.
Oh man, man, I got 2 days off. Are you kidding me? It's great.
So what day am I coming over?
I don't know.
What day are you have nothing planned? Is
I'm trying to have nothing planned every day.
all right.
All 2 of them.
Friday.
And Friday and Saturday and Sunday too.
Yeah, but you would.
Yeah, I'm gonna have those off anyways. I'm gonna try to avoid. I did put in my garage door opener over the weekend.
Yeah.
That was a pain. Have you ever put in a garage door opener,
Yeah, it's
Justin?
not easy.
Yeah.
You have?
Yep.
It's fun, isn't it?
It's not at all.
Doing it by yourself is even more fun.
Oh, I can't. Oh,
No, actually doing it with somebody else, but they're not really helping, but yelling at you for doing it wrong is the most fun.
No, I've never had that problem.
Shout out to you, Dad. You're the real MVP.
Oh, jeez.
He doesn't listen to the podcast.
He doesn't even know what we're talking about. He asked me once, he's like, oh, that sounds
The
boring.
real MVP.
Anyways,
Poor Kevin
I hope you
Durant.
enjoyed our Thanksgiving episode of Immigration. And if you stuck around with us this long, you are really one of our diehard listeners.
You the true MVP.
You are the real MVP.
There it is. Guys and girls, if nothing else, tonight, this is serious, but people are not people.
They're a figment of your imagination.
This podcast is screwed. We're done. We are done.
It may be time to put a pin in it.
No, but one final point I want to make is that even though we may disagree on things, and even though we may, I think sometimes try and get to the same point, but in different ways, and even in our, especially my failure to communicate my thoughts, you know, we still hang out and we still talk to each other. We're still doing this after all this time, you know, and you know, there's nothing between us, and I find that to be really cool.
Nothing negative between
like
us.
A bunch of like miles, like 200.
Like I was talking about, like no wall or nothing.
Literally,
like,
a lot of walls are between us.
Well, technically only
All right, we're
two.
done.
The wall
We're done.
in this house and the wall in this apartment.
Hey, the walls may be there. We're just trying to forget them.
That's right.
That's
okay,
because we're
I
forgetting
understand.
walls.
That's
end this now.
So remember, projects are not projects. Just remember, people are not projects. They're people just like you and me. And even though it's very, very hard to do, love them like you love yourself. And dudes, we're going to see you for episode 50.
Thank you for listening to the Forgetting Walls podcast. If you're subscribing to us on iTunes, leave us a rating to help us spread the word about this podcast. Remember, the only way this works is if you share your story. So be sure to visit the website and leave us a comment at forgettingwalls.com, or find us on Twitter at forgettingwalls and facebook.com/forgettingwalls.
Peace!